Of course, that's how it works. I just have a spinning circle of death. I appreciate you popping on. So we have been live streaming for a little bit here, and of course the back end is telling me that it's a circle of death. But I want to welcome you to the second day of the digital pattern. Oh my goodness, the Design Pattern Create Summit. I am so excited that you guys have joined us. And I am really looking forward to talking with Michelle here and just getting to know her. And we're going to also just be fielding any questions that may come in. So if you have them, please drop them. And we'll also go and check the post earlier today on if there's any questions that were dropped that need to be answered. So we started yesterday, Michelle, with all the different speakers, just kind of giving them a little bio, a little hello about what you are, who you are, and what you do. Would you like to take off with that?
Sure, absolutely. My name is Michelle, and I am one of the founders of the Craft Teachers Club. So while we don't do amazing things, we do a lot of things halfway. We are jacks of all trade, and we help creators and crafters make money teaching craft parties because a lot of us really struggle to do, like, we have all these amazing skills and that's great, but we struggle to get that out into the world and to make money selling our objects. So in a lot of ways it makes a lot more money, or makes a lot more sense to just teach workshops and classes, and it doesn't really matter what your project or craft or obsession is. People would like to learn it generally. So we help with the business end and with like how it goes from being a project to being a teachable project. I spend a lot of time in breweries, teaching people how to do stuff.
I love that. It's such a fun model. I definitely want to see how I can incorporate it somewhat, because I think that would be such a fun thing to do, is just go hang out in a brewery and have like a little teaching course or a little teaching class. Because it's like I could take a whole bunch of half scales and have a little pop-up digital or pattern drafting mini course that could be really fun, I think. So you've all when we talked, you really got my brain, activating those wheels and testing it out.
It also really expands your audience of people who are ready to buy your work. Because a lot of times, like, you're like, okay, so we're going to do some alcohol ink painting, which is very beginner friendly. But when you get good at that, it's hard to do some of the more advanced things and to be like, oh, I would love one of your pieces because I have learned from you. And I can tell you that, like, as a student of everything, a student of things, I've taken a number of classes, from a number of pottery classes, and it is so cool to buy my teacher's work, to be like, yes, this is what it's supposed to look like. And it just makes it a lot easier for people to kind of come into your world and enjoy doing that sort of thing.
So do you hand out business cards, or do you actually have your artwork there with you, kind of like on display?
It depends upon what we're doing and who we're doing it with. We will, so a lot of times what we will do is, if we're doing things like bath bombs, we'll have everybody make 3 of the same Starry Night bath bomb. And then we tend to do kind of series, and we're like, oh, here is like a bunch of other bath bombs for $5 a piece. And there's strawberry bath bombs and like rainbow bath bombs and all the other bath bombs. And so you're basically setting up a little craft booth in your class. And when you go into breweries, restaurants, you get a lot of people asking who you are and what you do. And so a lot of our customers are not even our students. They're just people who are just like, this is the coolest thing ever. I want to come to your next night. And yes, I would love to buy a bath bomb. Or whatever it is that we'll usually make extra or variations of whatever we're doing. And it just provides a little bit of an extra income. You're already there teaching. We absolutely have business cards. We generally will bring a calendar of our next events and a flyer that talks about private parties. So that is one of the more lucrative things that you can do as a craft teacher, is to go in and do somebody's baby shower or 40th birthday. Or I actually had a nurse who was really into sugar skulls, and I think she may have been a hospice nurse, and she was like, yes, I would love you to bring life size sugar skulls and we are going to decorate them, and that is what I'm doing for my 40th birthday. And it was one of the most crazy beautiful classes I've ever taught, but she was just really into the morbidity, and she was just like, yeah, this is cool, everybody dies, let's make sugar skulls. So I mean, it all depends upon what and how you want to structure your business. um, but I mean, I am in New Mexico, so sugar skulls are very much a part of our culture down here. We've got a big Hispanic population, and it's one of our things. So
Awesome. And how much do like the breweries normally charge for you to host the course there? Or do they take a percentage of the cut, or just
they don't
depends?
do either of those things. When we were first learning about doing this, we we made the biggest mistake ever, in that we wound up renting out a warehouse that we did an art market, and we spent $2,000 a month. And I remember that number because it was a lot, and it was like we weren't going to break even regardless, but that really hurt us. So our business model is that we do not charge to do our classes there, nor do they charge us. We only work with venues for free. And the reason that we do that is because, I mean, I have my degree in music, which means that I'm an incredible waitress and a very good bartender. And so when we go into these places, basically what's happening is, if you are a brewery, your biggest bottleneck to growing is getting new people in the door. So if you think about like, oh, where are we going to go to eat tonight? I've got a friend in town. We're going to take her out to drinks. Where are we going to go? The chances of you choosing a new place versus a place that you know, the chances are you're going to choose some place that you know. So if people can get the like new customers in through the door for the first time, they will much more likely become a regular. Also, we're teaching on Tuesday nights when they've already got the tables. So, and like, I mean, one of the breweries that we work at has fried pickles, and I'm addicted to the fried pickles. And like, so I am a very good kind of backup server and being like, what do you want me to push tonight? Like, what are your specials? So they make money when we bring 30 people in on a slow night. And then they make money well in advance, or well past when we leave, because people generally, crafting is fun. Making things is great, and they're good. Like, they're gonna make good memories when they go to that brewery. So the chances of them becoming repeat customers for that brewery makes a lot of sense. And they don't have to do a lot of advertising. A lot of times we'll have them share the Facebook event, but they're not putting money into advertising. We are.
Yeah.
So they're getting a whole bunch of value, which is why we do not pay our venues. They should pay us, but they don't, because we love them. And every once in a while they'll comp our meal, and it's like, what? You don't have to do that. Like,
For free beer.
yeah, like, here's a terrarium. Please just run my credit card so that I can tip you. Like, but I think it ultimately comes down to just having really good relationships with different places that you're working with. And I feel like when that happens, the good vibes kind of spread, and so many people are just really excited about coming in and doing whatever night it is. Like, this is the exact same model that paint nights work on for the most part. Like, they don't pay the venues don't pay them, but everybody benefits.
I guess I
So
never realized that's how those paint nights worked, is that they weren't paying for that, for the space. That's interesting. I've always
not
wanted to go to one of
smart.
those. I've never gone.
Um, they're fun. They're a lot of fun. I've made some really terrible paintings and had a great time. But like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
That sounds about what I would be doing too, is making a whole bunch of terrible paintings, but having a really great time doing it because you're hanging out, you're trying to learn a new skill.
you're, yeah, and I feel like a lot of it is just we're we're kind of sneaking learning in to a good time. So, like, I'll show you how to thread a needle. By the way, you're also eating the best French fries ever and having a drink with your friend. Like, and at the end, you get a terrarium or a embroidery piece or whatever it is that we're making. Um, so that's kind of what we do, and that's what we help other people do. Because it's a super fun model, like, and it's funny because I remember there was so I used to work in Seattle in downtown. Forgive me for going off onto left field.
Go
Okay,
for it.
so I used to work in Seattle as a bartender, and I worked downtown on Second Street, and we were the only bar within like a 3 or 4 block radius. And then a few months after I started, another bar came in like 2 blocks down the road. And I was like, they're in our territory. What's going on? And my manager was like, no, this is a beautiful thing for us because now we are going to be known for as a hotspot because people will go bar hopping and they'll come to us as well as them. It's not a competition. And so there are a number of people in Albuquerque, many of whom we've taught how to do this, who also run a really successful business because it's like getting this idea into people's heads that there are alternative ways of learning. There are alternative ways of like going out and having a girls' night. And I think it's still a relatively new concept for a lot of people that like, oh, we could go and take a class together. And it's a class, but there's so much creative time that it doesn't feel like a class. Like that's what it is, but it's not. But it is like so.
And how
Uh,
long do you normally try to get your classes to last?
we, I have found the hard way. I think right now I think we're pushing a 500 craft parties that we've taught, like public craft parties. We've been doing this for a while, and there was a point when we were doing it several times a week. And we have found that depending upon the project, if you can do it in 20 minutes, that is the perfect project for a craft party because it will take your audience about 3 times what it takes you because you know what you're doing. And you're not talking to your friends and you're not eating French fries. And so we find that our classes generally run somewhere around an hour. When we do mosaics, they go to they get put like mosaics tend to push because people have a hard time deciding. Um, but most of our classes run about an hour long. People usually arrive 15-20 minutes before they get their drink and food order in, and they usually stick around for about an hour after. So it's usually about a 2.5 hour thing. And while they're hanging out, we're cleaning up around them and packing up. And sometimes we'll just wind up being like, all right, well, it was so good to see you. Do you mind if we take the tablecloth and you stay here for as long as you want? And they'll drink until whenever. Um, but yeah, so we have found the hard way that if it's too like classes are very rarely too short um because you can add things to make them a little bit longer doing things like drawings or we like to add silly games to our things where it's like guess the jelly beans or whatever. People get really into having like little party games along with the craft. um but then like at the but but I've really, there was one point when we did rainbow bath bombs, and you had to mix like 7 different containers of bath bomb material. And the bath bombs were so beautiful. And they took like 2 hours to make 3 bath bombs. And by the time people were done, it was like, I don't care about this anymore. This is dumb. Like, and I feel like a lot of us, like when I look at projects like quilting, um, or things that take a long time, there's this like ebb and flow of this is the coolest thing ever. Oh my gosh, I'm never going to finish this. Oh, whoa, I can see the end. This is the coolest thing ever again. And if you can avoid that part with craft parties, you're good.
Avoiding the is this ever gonna end? That's an amazing tip right there. That's solid gold.
Why? Yeah, thank you. I feel like I wind up there a lot. Where it's just I'll start something and be like, did I really need to make all of these things? Like, huh. There was a point when my business partner started she did a mandala, but she did it over a life-size elephant. And so it was probably a good 30 hours of work. And it was like halfway through, she was just like, I can't stop doing this because I started it, but I hate this elephant. And I hate and I feel like every good creator has had that like moment more than once in our life where it's just like, oh, a blanket is a lot to crochet. Huh. Okay. That dress is it's a little bit more than I thought it would. This is more than a day's worth of work. Like,
yeah. I recently, speaking of crochet, I recently made a knee-length vest crocheted for a theater production I was working on, and oh my goodness, it looked beautiful, but I was crocheting for days, just same stitch over and over and over and over again.
And there just kind of comes a point when it's like, why did I start this? And then you get towards the end and you're like, I know why I started this. I'm brilliant. This is the coolest thing ever. So
yeah. I mean, I also started it because I was getting paid, which also helps. But specifically your own projects, yes, I have many of those. Why did I do this to myself? This little girl being one of them. That's why she's basically always dressed in this little dress that I have. That dress is a lot, so.
Very cool.
But yeah. Well, we don't seem to have many questions coming in. I can't see anything on YouTube because it still says we're not streaming, so.
I feel like sometimes you got to play for the crowd.
Oh, so true. So true. But yeah. So what's your next craft project that you're looking to do, or are you keeping it secrets?
So we are closed for this. So what we do in our business is we teach public or craft parties between September and like end of April, and then we take the summer off. And the reason is because we find that the people are not as into doing public parties. So we start focusing on private parties. Right now, the Craft Teachers Club is going to close at the end of the month because we grew really fast, and we want to make sure that all of our craft teachers are as supported as they could ever possibly want to be. So we figured we would shut down to new members on the 31st and then reopen in September. But in 30, like, we're gonna create 400 amazing craft party teachers who are just so loved. So right now what I'm doing is just a lot of like fun stuff, experimental things, things that are just for Instagram and just for like, I wonder what would happen if kind of things. And I feel like that is how new classes kind of come to be, if that makes sense. We have a full library in our membership where it's like terrariums, bath bombs, mosaics, all sorts of things that just really work well for craft parties. And as we're really careful about adding new ones, but just because it can go south if you are not, um, if you don't know, like, there macrame is a hard class to teach, for example. Like, so you have to have the exact right macrame project to teach, as I have found out the hard way more than once in my life, where it was just like, I can macrame, here's the like here's the pictures, why is this so hard? Oh yeah, you had 3 drinks, that's why this is so hard. Like, so we want to make sure that we are really serving our craft teachers and giving them amazing stuff, which means that there's a lot of experimentation. And like, I actually had a video that kind of took off and sort of went crazy viral this weekend. It's this one, and I just drilled holes into a china and created like a little macrame kind of thing with some vintage lace. And I thought it was a great project. I thought it was beautiful. It made me happy. I was like, oh, look, I can use this lace. But a lot of people really were upset with me. They were what?
For using the lace?
Yes. So, I mean, a lot of people loved it, but a lot of people were upset that I drilled holes in fine china. Even though I believe fundamentally that things should be used. I bought a lot of china for very inexpensive at garage sales because china is really fun, but many of us don't want grandma's china because it's very delicate and it's very, how do I say this nicely? Like,
not dishwasher friendly.
It's not. And I think the life that we are living today isn't necessarily what we were living 50 years ago, where my grandmother was throwing tea parties. And so we can call it antique china, but it's not worth a lot. And it's beautiful, but not in a box. And so people got very upset that I was destroying antiques. And that there's lace here, and so you would actually have to take the teacup off to water it so that you don't get the lace dirty. Also, I photographed it outside because I'm in New Mexico and we have the most beautiful blue sky in the world. So that was like the background. And I was like, this is the best picture ever. And a lot of people said that it was very ugly and that I was stupid for putting things outside. So I've never gotten more hate in my life than I did this weekend.
But that also means you're doing something right. Like, when you're getting the haters, that also means you're doing something right.
It turns out that apparently, like, if you too would like 1 million views on Instagram, what you have to do is destroy a couple of plates. And also I use the phrase plate to describe a saucer. Like, I use the two interchangeably, and that was very offensive, apparently, to the plate people of the world and the saucer people because I think the two are kind of interchangeable. Like, it's a saucer or a plate. Like, you can, whatever. There was a lot of comments about my bad grammar. There was also a lot of like, this is beautiful, I love this. Like, it was just a really fun video to do. But I feel like you have to experiment. Like, if basically what our business is creating really amazing projects for people to just take off the shelf and use. And so it's to find those golden gems that really work well in a crowd and that really get people excited. It's, you have to play with things, and figure out exactly how alcohol ink works and how, or whatever it is. Like, I love I love teaching alcohol ink in craft parties, but it's messy. And so you have to learn how to like control that. And you have to learn, there's just a lot of big things that you have to, so the summer is for playing for me. So I will be destroying saucers and plates all summer and gluing them back together and like doing some leather stamping and like whatever I can to kind of make sure that I am at the top of our game so that all of the teachers in our membership feel like we kind of know what we're doing and we have failed so you don't have to.
That's a great way. So if you want to get into your membership, you better sign up before Friday.
Yes, because it is coming up fast. It's amazing how May is the longest and shortest month of the year, I think. Because of end of school, graduations, all of the crazy things that are happening. And it's so long and so short. And so.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like there's, a learning curve of best time to put summits and everything and have fun, big things like this. And I was just like, right before summer sounds great. I'm like, oh no, we'll be changing the time again. But it's all that learning curve of when it works best for everybody and you and how it fits into the year.
It's funny how like being an entrepreneur and like figuring stuff out is really a guessing game. And there's so much that you would never expect. Like we have found, for example, like with craft parties, we have found that the golden perfect day to teach a Christmas craft, like to teach gingerbread houses, is the first Thursday of December. Like if you schedule it on that day, it will sell out no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. We will sell them out. But if you do it 1 week later, crickets. And then it'll be crickets until after Christmas. So like the 26th of December, schedule a craft party. You're golden. People are done with Christmas. They're ready for the new year. They're ready to continue to do stuff. But you would never know that. And we found that like with craft parties, public parties are different than private parties. But like in the summer, people are doing stuff. They're hiking and they're camping and they're whatever. And it's for whatever, we've tried everything to make the summers work really well and just found that it's kind of better to not push that, to use the summer as a really great learning opportunity and to line up your venues for the fall, because fall is when things go crazy. And it continues to go through crazy through spring. And I don't know, it's hard not to fight that. When was the summit last year?
September.
Ah.
Yeah. It was in September last year, but I was looking to do more of like sneak peek, I guess. I'm looking to maybe do more of a holiday summit in November. Right. And I didn't want to have two summits right on top of each other. So I was like, I'm going to move one to the spring, have one in the fall, and have two. And I was just like, it just needs to either go a little bit earlier or a little bit later.
Yeah.
So it's all that planning process of trying to figure out. And it's also, like you said, it's the trial and error. It's like, we're testing this out. I'm doing a slightly different format. I have slightly different things that I'm like, hopefully it'll work out better this time. Or, well, it worked out great last time and it's working out great this time. Right. And I mean, in my opinion, other people probably have other.
Oh, I have no doubt.
But it's, it's always that tweaking and testing and finding, because you don't know until you try, and you don't know until you go through it and test it out. So yeah.
The first weekend of the state fair is another dead day in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I am certain that nowhere else the state fair is going to mess up your business. But if you are teaching craft parties, we found out, it's so funny how like, if you're anywhere else in the world, the first week of first week of September is usually a good weekend. No, we're into the animals here. That's what we do.
You have fun with it. We did have a question come in on Facebook. How do you find inspiration for your projects?
I don't know. So there are three of us, and I tend to be the one who um, breaks things. And my business partner, we all have really great skills. I am the one who will often start things, and then Jessica will come back and make it beautiful, and Lisa will make it communicatable. And I do a lot of running. I am um I am I really like doing half marathons and um 5Ks and whatever. If you give me a medal, I will run however long you want me to run. I am very I'm a magpie, and I find that when I am running is such a great time to just play with different ideas and to take things that are working and think about all of the different terrible things that you could do with mosaics or bath bombs or whatever, and how you could take the idea of a mosaic and turn it into a sewing project, or how you can. I think that the creating an amazing project for most artists comes down to looking at what is beautiful in the world and turning it into your own. Um, so I find that like running through the desert, or really anywhere, I'll run anywhere if you want me to. Like if you give me a medal, I will run in a lot of different places. But those quiet time, I feel like you really need the quiet times in life to just to be bored and to let your mind wander, and um to let to let your imagination wander. So a lot of it is, what have we already done? How can we make it better? Oh, look, there's a bumblebee. I wonder if we could do a project with a bumblebee. Huh. Should we do it with glass, or could we do it with embroidery? I wonder if anybody else knows the turkey stitch. Could I teach the turkey stitch? Is that too hard to stitch? Like, but I think that it's really important to have those questions that you play with in your mind that just winds up leading you to really cool things. And then what'll often happen is we will be teaching a class, and I will think that I've made the most beautiful version of it. And like 4 people will create something that is so much more advanced and wonderful than anything that I could ever do, that I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to take pictures of that and like claim it as my own and be like, look at this amazing project that we did in our class. But really, it's like, Amy, like, so I think taking inspiration from other artists that don't even necessarily know that they're artists is really, really valuable. That's a long-winded answer. I feel like I
No,
could talk for a long time
but I
about
agree with
running.
you. Well, so I'm a cyclist though. So,
Oh,
and we do
cool.
long distance cycling. And it's the same type of situation. Well, it's not the same. My knees
Mhm.
are, my knees hurt less than your knees probably.
Right.
Um, but
I know that my acupuncturist is telling me that I need to learn how to ride a bike, because she's like, she's like, you are. She said some very blunt things about my body that I'm just like, really, really, you say that to me? Um, and she's like, I didn't think you could make a or like half marathon. You're old and heavy. And I was like, well, I can, and I'm gonna continue. She was like, you should learn how to ride a bike. Like, okay.
yeah, well,
So do you
I
guys
can't
do long
recommend,
distances? Do you
yeah, I
do
can't recommend riding a bike long distances. We've done, like just local adventures, but we also do like long tours where we bike across states. Um, and you're trying to figure out everything, you're camping every night, and you have to go so many miles every day, but you're out in nature. I find also being out in nature and away from screens really can help reset your brain and give you more creativity. Kind of like you're saying, being bored, but looking at the nature, and there's something so great about being in nature and out there and looking at those bumblebees and the butterflies, and just to give you those spurs of inspiration to try something new, try something different.
I also feel like a lot of it has to do the pain of exercising. Like, your brain creates really cool things so that you're not thinking about how badly it hurts. Like,
yeah. That's I would agree with that to some extent too, because that's also a your legs get super tired, or you're climbing up this hill and you're just like, it's never gonna end.
right.
Well, sometimes you can see the end and you're like, how am I gonna get up that? So that's also, there was this one hill we stopped. So we did this huge event last year called Ragbri, where you bike across Iowa with 50,000 other people. But
cool.
yeah, it's really fun. And
medals?
one of the stops was, you had your you biked into this town, and this town explodes, and there's party going on. But to get out of this town, it was this stupid steep hill that you start at the bottom, no momentum at all, and you're just looking at it going like, I have to climb that. So the amount of people that were walking up that hill was a lot, but I'm proud to say I made it to the top. I might have blown out my legs a little bit. I stayed on my bicycle.
But did they give you medals? That's very important to me.
Yeah, we got a medal.
Well, then I guess I'm in.
Yeah, no, we got a medal that year. And the other thing is, so for Ragbri, you dip your back tire in the Missouri River. I hope that's right. You dip your back tire in the Missouri, and then you ride across Iowa, and you dip your front tire in the Mississippi. So you're riding river to river. With
That's cool.
And I mean, it was the 50th anniversary last year. That's why the numbers were so high. It's normally only like 20,000 other people, but they closed down the highway systems, and you're just biking in huge groups and having a great time.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So totally off crafting and and digital pattern making, but you got to find those other inspirations and those other things to really help bring you in.
I feel like it's absolutely a balance. It's, when it comes to like entrepreneurship and creativity and like life and keeping your body in a good place where your mind can be in exciting places, like, I feel like I'm constantly spinning plates, and very often they crash, and then we pick them up and try again.
And you pick them up and make something beautiful out of them.
Well, I do, and then I drill holes in them, and then I ruin vintage lace, but I have a good time doing it.
But there's also that line of, you have to upcycle stuff. Like, we can't keep making in the way that we have been. We do have to start reusing stuff better. If it all ends up in the landfill, eventually we're all going to live on landfills, and yeah, that has its own problems.
Well, and I don't know. It's interesting, like the idea of personifying objects. I find that when I create things, when I'm done, they're just things, but you put parts of yourself into it, so it's hard to let go. But then you do let it go, and it's like, well, I just made this thing. I can make it again if I want. I think that people got really upset when I was drilling holes, because they were like, you're hurting my grandmother somehow. Some of the lace that I had was hand tatted. And I don't even know what one would do with tatted lace. But I mean, you probably have many ideas. Yep. But for me, it didn't. Somebody was like, can you just show me a quick picture? And I was like, actually, send me your address and I'll mail it to you, because somebody else was doing on the Instagram. She was she was a tatter, and it was like, that's really cool. I am never going to learn how to tat lace, and I feel like this is probably meant for you, so I will just mail it to you. But this idea of objects having personalities and memories and things that you make, and we did a project last month where part of the reason I have so many teacups is because we were doing these teacup planters, or these terrarium kind of things, where we weren't drilling holes in them, but they were like succulent garden kind of things, and they were to celebrate Bridgerton and Mother's Day, and like it was just a really fun project. But it was really cool to have people come in and look at all of these teacups that I had found at thrift stores and garage sales and whatever, and say things like, oh my gosh, this is my grandmother's pattern. And it's like, maybe your grandmother's just kind of saying hi. Like it's weird how we have these attachments to things, and kind of magical in the same way. Like I can understand why people have big feelings, but
yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, no, I agree with those sentiments for sure. So, but it's always that fun. You got to find a balance.
right. Yeah. And we have to reuse things as many times as we possibly can. Otherwise, I don't think we're going to make it.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we do a lot in the Craft Teachers Club is like, here's a very eco-friendly craft because X, Y, and Z. We do a lot of planting events, partially because I like planting, and things that when you're done with them can be easily recycled or easily reused. Terrariums are great for that because they last a long time, and when they don't, you just dump out the dirt in the plants and reuse the bowl. Like, so.
Or create another one.
Exactly. Bring it. There was one point when I found the remnants of one of our terrariums at a thrift store, and I was like, and I recognized it because of there was some stand that was very particular that we were using, and they'd taken out all the cool things, like they'd taken out all the decorations, and we're just like, here's a bowl of dirt, and then there was a little bit of sand, and it was like I thought about buying my terrarium back because it was such a good memory, but I didn't. So I don't know. It's fun to create. How are all of the other creators in going? How's everybody doing in the summit? I feel like I've been very siloed.
Yeah. Yeah, well, tonight was the low night for the speakers to be able to have availability. But yeah, no, I think it's going really well. I'm very excited with the turnout. We've gotten a lot of emails saying, thank you, this has been really great. We've had a few hiccups here and there where emails didn't get through, but that's part of it. But I think it's been going good. We had some really good conversations yesterday. A little bit lower attendance today for the live, but the live yesterday had a few, but it really picked up today during the day, I found. So we'll just have to see, but I'm always excited. Getting into summits like this always gets my creative juices going because I get to see other people's creativity, and that's really exciting for me, and I love it. So
there are some super cool classes that are happening that I've been looking at.
Yep, I've gotten a lot of things on my to-do list for this summer. Maybe too many things on my to-do list for this summer, but that's also part of it.
Makes me think about pulling out the sewing machine.
Yeah.
Like, what? Maybe I should make my own lingerie. I could do that.
Oh my goodness, yes, her book. I'm so excited for her book.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, and the quilted hoodie. I'm very excited for the quilted hoodie. That's high on my list to make my own quilted hoodie. I have so many scraps that I could use that is definitely high up on my list. So
Very cool.
but, and of course, I'm going to continue to digitally apparel pattern because that's my favorite little thing to do. When I get too stressed out and something, I'm like, I'm just going to go mess around in this program for 5 minutes and make something cute and then walk away.
I'm super impressed. I have not been able to learn that yet. It's on my list.
Yeah. I would 10 out of 10 recommend it, but that's because that's my passion, you know.
Right.
It's not, there's plenty of people there like, I am happy using other people's sewing patterns, or I'm happy hacking my own sewing patterns by hand. I don't need to move into the digital realm, which, you know, it's a whole other skill, and it's a different skill because you actually have to think about stuff differently when you're digitally pattern drafting, because you can zoom way in and zoom way out. So you never, like when you just draw a line, you have to know what the length of that line is. So you always have to think about it and how can I make sure I'm making the length of line I think I'm making.
Sounds like a lot of math.
Yes and no. Like,
Or paying attention to what you're doing.
paying attention, yes, for sure. I also love math, so it doesn't feel like a lot of math for me. It's probably more math than I want to admit it is. But when you're working, specifically when you're working in like Clo 3D, which is the really fun program I work in, like it does the math for you. If I'm like, I want to split this line up into 5 lengths, all I have to do is say, I want to split this line into 5 lengths, go. And I don't have to know, I don't have to measure the line and then divide it and then measure and hunk it out. It just automatically does it for me. So it just kind of depends on what program you're in, what you're trying to do, and all that stuff of how hard is it, or how much math is actually involved.
So cool.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I got a great group of people here. I'm so excited for who we got, and it's been so much fun to work this summit out to get this creativity going. So yeah. Well,
I've
I
been
do
honored
want
to be
to
a part of
thank
it.
you. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I said, well, I've been honored to be a part of it.
Yes. I want to thank you for jumping on this live with me tonight and taking your time to spend with me and a few people popping on and off, and for dealing with the crazy um it
Death
still says
spiral.
it's still death spiraling. I'm just gonna have to end the call and hope that it ends the live stream.
I will do the like fingers on my to make sure.
Yeah, I mean it'll end it. But yeah, I want to thank you so much for your time, for joining us, and sharing your knowledge. It was so much fun to hear and go even deeper into your craft teacher's brain and learn some more.
Yours too. Thank you so much for everything and setting all of this up. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoy it. And I want to say thanks to everybody out there on Facebook and YouTube, and make sure you check out those videos. You still have a 9 hours to watch all the videos today and get their free gifts. And don't forget, you have to sign up for Michelle's teachers, or what is it, the
Craft Teachers Club.
Craft Teachers Club before Friday, before she shuts it down for the summer. If you want in, make sure you sign up before Friday. Awesome. Well, I hope you have a fabulous evening.
You too.
And thanks. We'll see everybody another time. Take care.
Bye-bye.